you've been using your chuck for a while, and there's a variety of different name brands of chuck, and we'll discuss that in just a second. You probably are spraying a little lacquer on your item on your piece held by a chuck, and maybe put a little super glue here and there, and maybe even put a little stain or whatever. So it's gunked up the mechanism of your chuck. I found that after a while they don't turn as easy, and if you stop and clean them up and lubricate them, you're back to almost a new chuck. There is different styles of chuck. I have Talons, Vic Marks, and Bulldogs. And the Bulldogs and Vic Mark are basically the same chucks. The Talon does not have a backing plate on it. Okay, I'm going to go back to so I can see what's on my table here. Okay, this is a Talon. It has no backing plate on it, so you don't have to worry about that. But a Vic Mark does. It has a backing plate on it. So you need to take that off so you can get down to the gears. And what I discovered was Vic Mark put a light film of some kind of machining oil down in there, and I think it gets kind of dried up and gunky. So it's very important to take that back off. There's only 2 little screws. It holds it on there, so it's very easy to do. But what I'm going to do is do the Talon. This Vic Mark chuck, I did it a week ago, cleaned it up and lubricated it. And it's just as free today as it was a week ago. So the lubrication that I'm using is a dry film, and that's very important because you don't want a product that's got oil in it, because oil will attract dust when you're sanding or whatever. So then that just helps gunk it up more. What I'm using for my lubrication, this mystery product, is called 3-in-1 RV maintenance door and window. And it dries to a dry film. I was needing something is that backwards to you guys? It's backwards to me. I just wonder if it's backwards to you.
No, it looks good.
Okay, very good, thank you. I was needing something to lubricate the windows on my RV, and I was doing some reading, and I ran across this product, and I was trying to find it, and I was doing a Google search, and lo and behold, Walmart carries it for less than $6 a can, and they had it in stock in Greenville. It was in the automotive section where there is some RV products in Greenville. Now, where they're at in your store, I have no idea. But it works. I don't know how toxic it is. You notice I have my blue gloves on. I think it's a good idea to do that. The Harbor Freight blue nitrate gloves are very inexpensive, and if it keeps you from absorbing some chemicals in your skin, it's worth it. Besides, when you get old, you don't need to try to hurt yourself if you can help it. Okay, first thing I'm going to do is just take these jaws off. I took the liberty of taking 4 of the screws out for to help save time. And on a Talon chuck, you see that slot right there? That slot right there is what limits your travel on your chuck. And on the back of this one chuck right there, you see that roll pin? That roll pin runs in that slot. And then that's what keeps you from running your jaws out too far. And if you can actually disengage the scroll mechanism down inside, and it might be a trial and error to get it all back together. Now I have a machinist 4-jaw chuck, and it has inside and outside jaws, and it's designed to actually do that, but it tells you there's a process to do it. You just unwind it, take all the jaws off, and you put 1, 2, 3, 4 back in, and when you get done, they come down to, and still are centered. Okay, this chuck is not too dirty, but you see there's some stains here and there, and I know it's got some lacquer on it, and the back side of the jaws has got gunk all over them, and you know that little bit of gunk just keeps your jaws from closing all the way down when you're trying to grip something just really tight. What I've been using to clean it with is lacquer thinner. Lacquer thinner seems to cut the crud pretty well, and it does not hurt the black oxide finish or the chrome that's on the chuck. Take a paper towel and dampen it and start wiping on the crud. And pretty quick, the chrome starts shining again. You think, gosh, I've got a new chuck. Go around the outside also. because that's where all the really the junk is at. On a Talon chuck, the sliders, these little parts that go in and out, there is a number on either end of them, but the jaws are not numbered. The only one that you have to keep track of is the jaw that has the roll pin in it. It rides in that slot, and there's 2 slots, so he can go 2 different places. Okay, the chuck looks pretty nice now. It's nice and shiny. Now do the same thing with the jaws. Get all that crud out of them. And sometimes on the back side here, there's some slot or a raised portion and some grooves. And that's important that's clean because that rides in a groove on the slider. So take the time, and if you got, I got a little scratch awl here. I did have one that was kind of really gunked up, and I had to take a scratch awl and get down there and clean it up. And especially the jaws that has the serrations on it, they really got full of crud. One to go here. Okay, put that away. Side. Okay, now we're going to take this magic formula here, and we're going to lubricate it. What we want to do is down inside here, down here where the slider's at, right down there on all 4 of them, really well.
Hey, Dan, we got a question.
Yeah, sure.
Mark, he says, would an old toothbrush be okay to clean the grooves in the corner?
It probably would work good, but I think if you try to use lacquer thinner and no toothbrush, you may have a dissolved plastic mess, I think. I'm not sure. I'm cleaning on the wrong. That's the wrong chuck. Here's the right body. Now, one thing also you want to be careful of when these sliders start extending beyond the body, about 3/8 of an inch is about the maximum you want to go, because if you get too much farther than that, you're going to disengage this slider from the scroll down inside, and then you got to figure out how to get it put back together. That might be a call to one way to get that figured out. Anyway, squirt down inside, run it all the way back in. And you'll see on the outside and down in the slot here, you'll see the very little, little bit of a tooth of the scroll. Squirt some down in there. Get that down inside that scroll, all the way around, and squirt some around that gear mechanism in there. Now run it in and out several times to spread the lubrication around. You want to try to get it on all moving surfaces. Now my little paper towel here, see how much crud I got out of that? That's what came out of the inside when I sprayed the lubrication down in there. But just do that, 3 or 4 times. Run it in and out. Don't go out too far. And now you've got that lubrication spread around the best you can to all of the moving surfaces. And the scroll is the one that you can't see, but that's probably the most important because it's taking up the most friction down inside. Okay, you've got it spread around. Take your paper towel or a cloth, whichever you prefer, and wipe all the excess off. Down inside here where the gears are at. I had one of my chucks, I guess had been together, and must have had some wet wood. There was a little bit of rust down in this groove here. I just took a little wire brush and got the wire brush. I think a little wire brush would be more effective than a toothbrush because you can put a little lacquer thinner on it and it's not going to hurt the brush. Just a simple one you'd buy at Harbor Freight for a buck or two. Okay. Now we've got it lubricated, cleaned up and lubricated. Now we're going to put the jaws back on. Now to find the one that's got the roll pin on it, that goes in the slot. Well, right there. I'm not going to put all these jaws back on just for sake of time. If you have a chuck that has numbers on the jaws and on the ends of the slider, it's very important at this point in time that you line them back. You match them, because the way the scroll is made inside, it won't work right if you don't have it put together right. The one way, I guess, they figured out a way of doing the same thing without numbering. I don't know how they did that, but magic, I guess. You know, it doesn't take very long to do this, and so I did several chucks over this past week, and after a few days, they still are all working very nicely. So I think this lubricant, this magic lubricant, does not gunk things up like it's supposed to. Another interesting point: this said it was made by 3-in-1 Oil. Well, guess what? 3-in-1 Oil is owned by WD-40. It says on the back of the can, it's manufactured for WD-40. It's a small world sometimes, isn't it? Something else I discovered the other day is that Amazon owns Harbor Freight. I guess that's a reason that maybe that the Harbor Freights are just expanding in huge quantities. They just opened up a brand new one in Greenville just this past week. And there's one going to Sulphur Springs. So we are Harbor Freight, a lot of them. The one in Greenville is on Wesley Street down by Atwoods. Right by Atwoods. I always go around twice to make sure the screws are tight. Didn't miss one. Okay. Running just as smooth as silk, maybe nicer than the day it was bought. And there's that roll pin engaged so you can see about how much is extended. That's close to a ½ inch, but I would say when you're doing it with no jaws on it, don't go past 3/8. That way you won't get in problems. Yes, there was someone, I don't remember who it was years ago, said that they bought some extra sliders. And that's the way they changed the jaws, is they unwound the scroll and took the jaws out, and they had the sequence down to how to put them back in. And I think that's probably an easy way of doing it. On the Vic mark, because the jaws are numbered and the slider is numbered, in case I ever had that problem ever come out, I took a metal stamp and I stamped the same corresponding number on the body of the chuck, so that in case you ever had that case where you did get it out, now you got somewhere to start from. And that's basically it. It doesn't take very long, and it's just a matter of doing it, and then your chuck will work just like it was brand spanking new. This dry lubricant, I think, has a lot of potential for lots of different things, because you don't want something that you want something that doesn't stay sticky. And all you use some oil. I lost my picture here somewhere. Just a minute. Okay, I'm back. Okay, any questions?
Let's
Any
see.
comment?
Yeah, Dan, Ed had a comment. Ed, let's unmute you and so you can just ask this little complicated question here.
Oh, no, it wasn't a question. It was just a statement. I had a Nova chuck that was a little rough in a spot or two. So I ended up taking the sliders out and found some extra machine scrap in there. And to get the sliders back, you start with the number 1 and you close down the chuck so the spiral goes around, and then you catch number 2 while you put a little pressure on it so it catches the spiral, and then go on to 3 and 4, and then you can put your stop screw back in and you're all set.
Okay. You said you had some manufacturing debris in there?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if you call it tailings or, I mean, that's a mining term.
They didn't clean it up very well when it
Boy,
assembled.
you're telling me.
Okay. I don't know whether this lubrication, I had a chuck that was about halfway through the rotation. It seemed like it did have a catch, but after I lubricated it, whatever was in there, it flushed it out. So it working fine now. So
Well, I'm going to take your advice, Dan, because I think my table saw could use that. It's getting to the point of a little stiff here and there.
That might be a
dry
great
on it.
where you have the gears in the to raise and lower it and adjust your angle.
Yep.
That I've been using white lithium grease on there, and it does really good job of collecting dust. Now maybe if you cleaned all that off and sprayed this on there, that might be just as good.
That's what. You have any idea what the product is? Whether it's a wax or?
Oh, it's got some words in it. It's too long to pronounce, so it's not good.
Yeah.
And
wear your gloves.
Everything else it says used in a well ventilated area. Well,
okay.
If you was going to spray the whole room down, it probably wouldn't need to do that. But I don't think a little bit will hurt you, too much. It just won't hurt bad.
Yeah.
That's all I got. I hope
Well,
you guys
thanks.
have it.
Hey, Corey says he has a question.
Sure.
Okay, Dan, here's my old Nova 2 chuck, and it needs cleaning and lubing. Can I bring this to you?
Sure. When you come over and get your stump, bring it along.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, I that's legit. I get it.
I'm done.
Hey, Dan,
Yes.
I think most of the chucks is like he said, if you take them take the sliders all the way out, you can put them back in order, but you've got to start at the beginning. So you got to run that chuck around till you see that scroll first begin.
Well,
I had jaws come out of barracudas at the shop at school on a regular basis. And if you're not careful, the barracuda's made like the one-way talon. It has that pin that stops it, but you can overpower that pin.
you can.
And then it comes out regularly, especially if you're an over-exuberant teenager. So we learned how to get them back in pretty regular.
Do you have to have a number on the body to get started, or can you just start with call this number one?
You need to go with the. I didn't find that on the body it made any difference as long as you started at the beginning of the scroll.
Right.
And sometimes picking up the end of the beginning of the scroll on the second, third, and fourth is a little bit tricky, because I have on occasion had one way out longer than the others because they went around one too many times.
Right. Okay.
So you have to kind of be careful that you go in order. On the jaws, Tim tells me that I think it's one way that is making the jaws individually CNC. That's why they're not numbered.
Okay.
All the rest of them, traditionally, they were all made in one piece and cut out. That's why they were numbered. But now a lot of them's making them singly.
Okay.
Thank
All
you,
right.
Joe. We have one more question, Dan. Phil Rounds has a question.
Yeah, Dan, have you worked with dry graphite?
I have it's something like you lubricate a key with.
Well, you can lubricate a key. I know there's people that's lubricated slides with the dry graphite. They've got an aerosol dry graphite, and I was wondering if you clean your chuck up with the 3-in-1 that you've got, would the dry graphite work, or would that have a tendency to keep the sawdust stuck to this?
I would think it would not, but I don't know that for sure. What actually got me started, Sandy Thompson and I was talking here a year or so ago, and he found some bicycle chain lubricant, which was a dry film. And he did basically the same
Right.
thing, but what he showed me, it was not in an aerosol, it was just in a can with a spout on it. So the aerosol gives you a little more oomph to get back in that scroll. And then I think that's the important thing that needs to be lubricated is that scroll and naturally the sliders, but you can get to them really well.